Yeah, that's right. We all make mistakes sometimes, but that's okay. The Bible actually has some really great stuff to say. So I think it's time for Bible Breakdown with Matt.
One day at school, I was hanging out with some friends in between classes, and we started talking about one of our other classmates named Andy, and he wasn't there that day. I hate to admit it, but we were not saying kind things about him. Everyone, even me, said some pretty mean stuff. And here's the worst part. Andy was actually one of my friends. Yeah, I know, not cool. Well, we all went to our next class and I felt pretty bad. But I thought, oh well, it's not like Andy was there to hear all those mean things. I'll just pretend like it didn't happen. But later that day, another friend, my best friend Chad, he walked up to me and totally called me out. I didn't see him earlier, but when we were all making fun of Andy, he heard the whole thing. He heard every mean thing I said about Andy. Well, I told him I didn't really mean all of it, but Chad was a good friend, so he challenged me. He challenged me to do the right thing and go apologize to Andy for what I said. Man, I really didn't want to, but I knew Chad was right. Talking to Andy was a little awkward. I mean, he didn't even know I said anything bad about him. But after I apologized, he forgave me. Yeah, I did something wrong talking about Andy, but then Chad helped me to do what's right by admitting what I did and asking for forgiveness. The truth is, all of us make mistakes. All of us mess up and do the wrong thing sometimes. And after we mess up, the right thing to do is admit our mistakes and ask for forgiveness. First from God, and then from all the people we hurt. In the Bible, even David made some serious mistakes and hurt a lot of people. Yeah, David, the same guy who trusted God enough to fight a giant and eventually became the nation of Israel's greatest king. This same David ended up making some of the worst mistakes in history. Now, it's a long and complicated story that I don't have time to get into right now, but here's the short version. Basically, David did something wrong. Then, instead of admitting what he did wrong, he tried to hide his mistake from everyone by having one of his top soldiers killed in battle. Yeah, terrible. And David would have kept all of this evil he did a secret forever if God hadn't sent the prophet Nathan to confront David. This part of the story is great because Nathan, he's really stealth at first. When he starts talking to David, he acts like everything is okay. Then he tells David a story about two men. He tells David that the first man does some really bad things to the second man, and the first man is actually gonna get away with doing these bad things. Well, David gets super angry at Nathan's story. He says the man who did those bad things deserves to be punished. Then Nathan points his finger at David and says, guess what, David? The man doing all those bad things is you. Boom. Nathan tricked David into calling himself out for all the bad things he had done. And David knew he was busted. Nathan flat out told him, hey, David, you might have hidden your evil choices from other people, but you can't hide them from God. So after all this, David realized it was time to start doing what's right. And he did. He finally admitted his mistakes, and he asked God for forgiveness. And even though his bad choices, they had consequences, of course, God did forgive him. It just took David humbling himself, which is something we all have to do from time to time. None of us can think we're too good or too awesome to admit a mistake. You know, when Chad called me out about making fun of Andy, I could have shrugged it off like, it's no big deal. I could have been too proud to listen to him, but thankfully, I did listen to him. And after I did the wrong thing, I let someone correct me so I could do the right thing. Lots of good people will correct you, just like Nathan needed to correct David. And think about this, David was the king. I mean, he was the ultimate authority in the nation of Israel. He was in charge of everybody. But even David needed to be challenged and corrected, and so do you. You need people in your life like your parents, your teachers, your coaches, even some of your friends. Never be too proud to listen to them. Stay humble. and you'll get better at doing what's right. And the more you do what's right, the better your life will be. But again, don't worry, you're gonna mess up. But when you mess up, just admit your mistake, ask for forgiveness, and get back to doing what's right. Because if you know what's right, you gotta do it.
Yeah, guys, we all make mistakes, but that's okay. We just learned that if you make a mistake, admit it. And it's okay. Ask for forgiveness and do the right thing. So this week, that's what you do. If you know what to do it. So we'll see you next time. Bye.